Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty360. I hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. Wanted to welcome you back to another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. In this series, we talk to leaders in customer channel and brand loyalty about what they're seeing on the front lines. Today, we have this pleasure of speaking with Rajamannar, who's the Chief Marketing Officer for Mastercard and President of the World Federation of Advertisers. He is also the author of a forthcoming book entitled Quantum Marketing. It's from HarperCollins that will release, actually it already has been released on February 9th. So interesting book, read a little bit of it, and looking forward to talking to you more about it.
Thank you for having me, Mark. Looking forward to our conversation.
First off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Mastercard, and maybe even a fun fact about you, what you like, what you don't like, maybe something you enjoy doing?
Right. So I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard, and I'm also the President of Mastercard's healthcare business. So I'm straddling two different worlds out there, the business role as well as the functional role. And I'm associated heavily in the industry with my, association with World Federation of Advertisers and with ANA. And I have been in the field of marketing now for 36 years. So marketing practically has given me my bread and butter over more than these 3 decades all over the world. I spent time starting with India in Unilever. Then I was in the Middle East and Africa, and then Europe with Citibank. I came to the US, became the chairman and CEO of Diners Club, and then which was then owned by Citibank. And I moved to healthcare in 2009. And I came back to financial services / payments in 2013 to Mastercard. And since then, I've been here.
Okay,
and the fun fact, I'm just wondering what the fun fact would be. Probably, I'm one of the most longest serving CMOs, I guess, across any company. The average duration or tenure for a CMO in a company seems to be these days around 3.5 years. And here I am at 8 years. So I don't know if I'm the most, person stuck at one place, or it is, a good record that I should celebrate. But I'm very happy, very contented, and we are doing a fantastic job at Mastercard. So I feel grateful for that.
All right. Well, congratulations on the long tenure. And you're right, the CMO tends to turn over quite frequently. Trying to do that left brain, right brain area and trying to keep it all under control. But congratulations on that great success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next question. Why does marketing today face kind of an existential crisis? What is that crisis, and why is it occurring?
See, I think this is most unfortunate, right? I think marketers, if you see, they had a very, very good role in driving business, in building brands for centuries, I would say, ever since it has been in existence. And I think the going was pretty good till almost late 1980s. But with the advent of data and technology, with the birth of internet in the 90s, all that has changed. Because most of the marketers have come from the qualitative side of the house, they could get their heads around digital in terms of technology or in terms of data. And when marketing became more data-driven, they started becoming a little sidelined. So you started getting a new breed of people who are not classically trained marketers, but they're very good at doing things like data modeling and analytics and A/B testing and so on. So that breed, which is now called performance marketers, has overtaken the classical marketers. Number one. Number two, with the advent of the fourth paradigm of marketing, as I call it, in 2007, with the launch of iPhone and social media platforms, marketing had to again reinvent themselves. And even as the marketers were trying to catch up with the third paradigm, the fourth paradigm has already come upon them. Unfortunately, many of the marketers are finding themselves out of depth in these new areas of technology. Like, for example, when I asked my peers, I said, put your hand on your heart. Let's have an open conversation. Do you really understand programmatic? The answer is no. Do you really understand blockchains? No. Do you know what is AI beyond the hype? No. So what's happening is marketers are becoming a little out of touch with the things that are impacting marketing significantly, number one. Number two, McKinsey has done a study amongst CEOs. Nearly 70 to 75% of the CEOs have said they have no confidence in their CMOs or in their marketing teams to be able to drive business growth. Now, that is a disaster. If 73/4 of all the CEOs feel that way about the marketing function, as a result, you find that many of the CMO roles are getting eliminated. And these are not some obscure industrial companies which barely do marketing in a classical sense, but these are hardcore consumer marketing companies like Johnson & Johnson, for example, or Hershey's. They've all done away with the role of CMOs. And a new set of C-suite roles are coming, like Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Customer Officer, Chief Growth Officer, who are non-marketers running those functions, which traditionally were in the domain of marketing. That's one part of it. The last point I would say is that when you look at the marketing as a function, Philip Kotler has defined it beautifully, the 4 Ps of marketing. But today, marketers are not handling product. There are some other organization within the company that manages products. They don't handle pricing. They don't handle place, which is the distribution. They only handle part of promotions, that too the thematic. The schematic promotions are run by salespeople. So with the result of which, if marketers having half of the 4 Ps that they are supposed to, which is 1/2 of 1 P of the 4, that is a disastrous situation. And the problem is today when CEOs are asking marketers, what are you getting me for my business in return for the dollars I'm giving you? The answers typically tend to be marketing answers. Now, that's a big mistake because a business question requires a business answer. A finance question requires a finance answer. And if you're waffling around saying that, yeah, my brand awareness score has gone up, my predisposition score has gone up, etc., you lose your credibility. And that's what is happening. So marketing is in a real existential crisis mode. It has lost its seat at the CEO's table in many cases, unfortunately.
I think you're right. I mean, as a trade association for customer loyalty, we have about 250 members now, growing. We help brands run their RFIs and RFPs. And there's a challenge right now with the new technology. And I completely agree with you. Marketers aren't necessarily as well versed in the technologies, but I think it's more a challenge in the industry because there are so many acronyms, there are so many buzzwords, there are so many unique ways to define what AI, machine learning, neural networks may be. And I think that's a challenge, right? How SAP may define something, how Oracle may define something. There's no synthesis. And right now we have analysts that go through all these technologies and how they talk about them. That's where the confusion starts, right? They never really address the problem with the marketer. They try to create kind of unique ways, buzzwords, euphemisms that sell their product, but it really doesn't address what they do in a simple form. And that's one of the things that we really try to do is simplify what you're doing and what you're saying so they understand it. I mean, you can have 2 products, 2 different vendors, and you would never know they're the same product.
Exactly, because it's all surrounded in mystery and a lot of smoke and mirrors. And it's very difficult for a normal marketer to be able to cut through all that. And from that point of view, what your organization is doing, I think it's a human service to the marketing community from that point of view.
Right. No, you're absolutely. I think another too, with all the money in Silicon Valley and the new technologies out there, the more kind of myopic you can make it or obtuse, right? It makes it harder to measure. So, as you know, you have to go in for that first round funding. You have to get the exec level buy-in initially, but then you have to sustain that. And that sustaining is where it gets to be challenging because AI, machine learning, neural networks, long-term performance-based marketing are predicated on having a long runway, right? And if you don't meet ROI, if you don't meet some of those challenges, it becomes really difficult for the marketer to go back and get that second round of funding.
You can't sustain it.
Yeah, you can't sustain it. You're absolutely right. And I think those are very, very salient points. And they're the points that we see. Marketers want to get to one-to-one. They want to have personalization, but truly getting there is very challenging for them.
Absolutely. I think the conceptual aspects are clear in marketers' mind, but when those concepts have to be translated to practical programs or platforms, that's where there is a significant gap. And many times you're having many vendors who come and pitch to you, and everything they claim is powered by AI. Now, the key thing is, do you as a marketer understand enough to be able to ask the right questions? And also when you get the answers, are you able to decipher the wheat from the chaff? Or are you just sort of, too embarrassed to even admit that you don't understand and ask those guys to explain? Because I actually spend time with a lot of vendors. And when they say powered by AI, I said, exactly, tell me how. I actually went and took a course specifically on artificial intelligence. And I didn't get a certificate because I didn't pay that $49 extra. I didn't need that certificate. But I studied artificial intelligence and I took a lot of sessions and a lot of training programs on it. Therefore, I can ask the questions. When I ask the question, some of these vendors, when you go through the top layer, there is nothing below that. It's all vaporware. It's all just a claim because they feel that they can get away with it. And and you're absolutely right when you started saying this. When you look at so many RFPs that are coming your way, or where you are helping the marketers decipher, that's a big issue that we have at this point in time.
Now you ask them the same question. What is it? Is it just a regressive model, or is the model learning? How does it do so? How does it take the data points in? How many data points do you need? And they never have those answers, right? It's challenging. Even we were talking to a fraud scoring entity the other day, and the same thing. It's like, why don't you just simplify what you do? And like, if you know something like you, right, being in the transaction industry for a while, you start asking about 84, 83 protocols, the authorization message. How are you getting this message? Are you getting it from the associations, Mastercard, Visa, Discover? I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know? But anyway, so it's interesting to hear that. And that's one of my passions, is just the challenges that exist within the market. And it makes it so difficult for brands to compare these different technologies. And it's difficult. So
absolutely.
So quantum marketing, can you define what quantum marketing is and the mission?
So firstly, the way I define quantum marketing is, we are at the verge of a humongous, unprecedented disruption led by more and more technologies coming our way. If you look at the previous times marketing was disrupted, typically it was by a couple of technologies, right? For example, when I said in 1990s, it was data analytics and it was internet. In 2000s, early 2000s, it's 2007, it was social media and it was mobile devices. Two technologies were enough to really create a complete new ecosystem and disrupt the whole field. Now we are at the verge of about 24 technologies that are coming at us. Incredibly powerful. Start with AI, artificial augmented reality, virtual reality, wearables, Internet of Things, autonomous driving vehicles. You have got 3D printing, you got drone delivery, you got 5G, blockchains. Now, when so many are coming, and when you look at what the implications of each one of these are on marketing, it is absolutely frightening at one level, and it is inspiring at another level. But whichever way, whether you get frightened or inspired, the current models, the current theories, and the current strategies of marketing will just not work in this impending fifth paradigm when all these technologies, they come in full force. You need to reinvent marketing, reimagine marketing in a different way, and that new framework or the new approach is what quantum marketing. If I can just draw a parallel to the world of physics. Now, physics is the science with which you try to understand the physical phenomena around you. What is electricity, what is magnetism, what is gravity, and so on. It worked very nicely for centuries. But when mankind discovered outer space, classical physics could not explain anything there. Or when mankind started looking inside of atoms and what happens there, classical physics failed. So a new branch of physics came around called quantum physics. And today, a lot of what we do actually stands on quantum physics. In the same way, I'm saying classical marketing is actually not going to work tomorrow. You need an equivalent of quantum physics for our field, which is quantum marketing. So this is basically what the whole thing is. And it's not just a theory. I have actually tried to put in my book a high-level playbook. Meaning, take for example, okay, artificial intelligence is coming. So what? Firstly, what is artificial intelligence? Demystified, simplified, so a normal marketer can understand. He or she doesn't have to be a tech geek, but they should understand. Then understand what the implications are, and then say, how do you leverage it and how do you go about it? So every single technology that I'm talking about in the book, I'm coming up with some kind of a playbook that I've given. And the whole idea is, at the end of it, marketers should be stimulated enough to think or rethink their marketing approach and start preparing for it today, because it requires a completely radically different approach. Because I'm making some very provocative statements. I'm saying advertising is dead. I'm saying loyalty is dead the way we know it, right? And I think we should actually talk about it. And then I talk about how consumer insights, the way we go about it, is completely incorrect. And is purpose fluffy or is it substantial? Is it good just for annual statements and for the CEO speeches, or is purpose truly meaningful for marketing and is an evidence that purpose-led brands actually get ROI for their investment behind purpose? Or what is a scenario on ethics and integrity in marketing? What should be the qualities of the future CMO or the future marketer? I really try to look at it end to end as a practicing a marketing person or a marketing professional, and I said this is how we should actually approach marketing. So the sum total of this is what I'm calling it as quantum marketing.
Okay, makes sense. The fifth paradigm. What is the fifth paradigm of marketing that you argue we've reached today?
So we are at the cusp of the fourth and the fifth, right, of paradigms. So like I said, we started the first paradigm with product marketing being the single focus. You focus on the product, improve your product, give it at a good price, consumers will buy it because consumers are rational, logical, thinking beings. But then when consumers discovered psychology, sociology, when marketers discovered psychology, sociology, and anthropology, that entire paradigm changed. We moved into paradigm two, which was emotional marketing. So much so that there is no need for you even to talk about your product and be hugely successful. One of the best examples for that I can tell you is right from Mastercard. In our advertisements on Priceless, we don't talk anything about the product. But consumers love the whole thing. They bond with the brand and they prefer the brand over the competition. This is paradigm two, which was given a major boost by our ability to tell compelling stories with television and with radio. Then came data analytics and internet, which is the birth of the third paradigm. And here, data-driven marketing, precision marketing, internet marketing, digital marketing. This is what we actually came up with as a community of marketers, right? 2007, with the launch of iPhone and with the scaling of Facebook, we had to reinvent again. And that was the birth of the fourth paradigm, where you talk of location-based marketing, mobile marketing, influencer marketing, social media marketing. Lots of different, what you call branches of marketing have come out of the woodworks. And that's something which is now we are in the midst of. Fifth paradigm is what I'm calling as quantum marketing, where it's going to be a confluence of an unprecedented level of technology capabilities and data analytics capabilities. Data and technology are going to be the two wheels combined with the third one, which is science, behavioral economics, neurology. Neurology is actually going to a different level altogether. The science of sound and the impact of sound on people. When the smart speakers are coming in a big way, you need to understand what sound does to people's psychology and what it does to their behavior. How do you leverage those understandings of sound into our marketing campaigns? It's a totally different world out there. And I would say that this is a brave new world, which is the fifth paradigm, nothing like what we have seen. And like I said, a lot of things that we have been doing so far, we have to junk them and then restart, reset, and then go forward.
Well, I think that's an interesting point as well, too. I'm a big fan of behavioral economics. I speak with all those guys on a regular basis. I voraciously read it. I'm reading a book right now, I forget, by Ram Charan, just all those guys I've spoken with. But if you don't understand behavioral economics, behavioral psychology, it's hard to understand because a lot of those books, they play on one another, right? So if you read, Good to Great or Tiny Habits or some of those books, they have, and they take pieces of each book and they're very complex, right? And you're right. I mean, that gets to even, type 1, type 2 behavior, from emotional to rational behavior. It's very hard for marketers to understand that. And it's interesting. I think you're right. There's lots of triggers, and habits are so interesting as well. The Power of Habits, amazing book, how they're formed, how you create them, how you sustain them. And marketing is going that way. And I think the brands that do well will continue to do that. But it's interesting to hear that kind of what the fifth paradigm is. And I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep.
So what were the four previous paradigms?
So the first paradigm is all about product marketing or product-centric marketing. I have the best product. I'm giving it to you at the right price. It's available right next door to you, which means convenient access. So please come and buy it. And the premise is, why would you not buy it? Because you're a rational, logical, thinking human being. This was paradigm one, which actually sustained for the longest period of time. Even today, interestingly, some companies are still stuck in first paradigm. If you look at many vacuum cleaners, for example, They say, what is the suction power of that particular vacuum? Or when you talk of companies saying that my acceleration goes from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, and somebody says I go in 3 seconds, that's so meaningless from a consumer's point of view. But many companies are practicing that first paradigm kind of marketing even today.
Absolutely.
Then you got the second paradigm, which is about emotions. The whole logic is when you said about system one thinking and system two thinking, right? You need to appeal to the primal aspects, not the cognitive aspects of people, not the thinking aspects, but the feeling aspects. Now, that feeling aspects doesn't happen when you logically explain something. Logic is only post rationalization of something, but the motivation is always emotional. So this was the whole premise of the second paradigm, which lasted for a few decades, I would say, and got a big boost because of TV and radio, where you could tell very emotional kind of stories. And I would say many companies, like whether it's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, when you say Coca-Cola, open a bottle of happiness, they don't talk about the product. There is no fizz, there is no taste, there is no quantity, there is no cheap price, nothing. It said that, open a bottle of happiness, whatever that might mean. And the damn thing worked. Same thing with Pepsi, the choice of new generation. Or I can vouch for Mastercard's priceless campaign, where we talk about the time spent with your 11-year-old son is priceless at a baseball game. For everything else, there is Mastercard. You don't talk about the credit limit, your safety, your security, your rewards, your cash back, nothing at all. But it worked like a charm. It put the brand in a different league altogether. This is paradigm 2. Paradigm 3, I think the shining example of this is Amazon, which is data-driven and internet-based marketing, precision marketing. So the beauty about, there have been companies like Citibank, for example, in the early 1990s. They used to do extensive amount of data analytics and then actually have data-driven marketing. And they would measure ROI, the precision targeting and all that. But they used to use all the data analytics for themselves. Whereas Amazon is doing something very smart. They analyze the data and then they present it back to the consumer to give a gentle nudge to the consumer. People who looked at this or bought this are also buying this or have also bought this. It's a gentle nudge, and it's powered by data analytics in real time. That is paradigm 3. Now, paradigm 4, it changed the game altogether. It democratized marketing like never before. So you can be a tiny Silicon Valley startup and give hell to a gigantic company because you are able to leverage the power of social media in an unprecedented manner. So the key thing is, there could be one single tweet which can make a brand, or it can destroy a brand. And in fact, there have been examples like Snapchat had lost because of one tweet by one celebrity almost $1.5 billion of market cap in just within one day. So it's a different world that we are operating in. The fourth paradigm, and the fourth paradigm essentially is mobile and social marketing. So these are the 4 paradigms that we have had transitioned through at this point in time. And the technology infrastructure for each one of these paradigms is different.
Absolutely.
In fact, for paradigm 1, there was no technology infrastructure, I would say, from a marketing point of view. For 1 and 2, then it started, and now it's sort of so complex. My worry is that marketers are not fully on top of it. They don't grasp it. They're not learning. And classically, marketers have been right brain thinking people. They're creative, they're intuitive, and the aesthetic sensibilities are high. But marketing today requires left and right brain. And left brain, analytics, data, finance. You need to get your whole head around this, and that's where we have got a gap, and hence existential crisis as well.
Well, I think also you're right with the right brain, left brain. But I think one of the things that a lot of brands struggle with too is listening to their customers and understanding, that instead of kind of putting the product out there that they want, listening to the customers, understanding what they want and need. Right. I mean, Adam Grant, I'm reading a book right now called Think Again, and it's really interesting. Just listening to the customers and any kind of foibles you have in your thinking, any process you have, you may need to rethink them. And I think marketers need to do that in some cases as well. So it's not going to be always push. There's going to be a lot more pull and reciprocity in communication now than there ever has before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. It's actually a very fine balance there, right? I think assuming that we know everything about what's in consumers' hearts and minds is arrogance. And that kind of a frame of mind or complacence leads you to be out of touch with the market, and you don't know if this is what the consumer actually wants on the one hand. And on the other hand, many times consumers may not have the level of originality to think what they want. to know what they want. And that's famously, it's attributed obviously to Steve Jobs.
I'll stop with Dan Ariely, but you're right.
Yeah, and he says, I don't. The consumers don't know what they want. I need to tell them what they want, and once I give it to them, I'm giving a tangible form of what they should be wanting, and they'll love it the moment they see it. So there is reality in that to some extent too. So it's a balance between the two.
So the challenges that exist with regard to CMOs today, how can CMOs forge stronger relations with their chief financial officers, their chief executive officers, even their chief information officers, right? How can CMOs do a better job of kind of building those relationships?
See, I think, this has been a big gap, and you have hit the nail on the head, which is the relationships today between the CMO and the CFO, they're not great. And when your CEOs are saying they don't trust their marketing department or marketing folks, there is a problem there. The reason is because marketers have not marketed the function itself in their companies. And that marketing begins with establishing tight relationships with these people. Now, traditionally, the perception is the CFO and the CEO are adversarial. So the CFO doesn't want to give money to marketers. Marketers want to hide the money. And that starting point just doesn't work at all. And I'll give you a personal example. So when I joined Mastercard, when I saw this dynamic, I said, we need to kill it. So I said, look, as marketers, we have nothing to hide. We can afford to have an open kimono and give that a sense of trust and confidence to the CFO. So at the time, the CFO that we had now, she was one of the finest CFOs, right? And very tough CFO. She was tough as nails. So what I did is I went to her and I said, Martina, actually, I would like to have a CFO residing within the marketing department. And that person will report to me and to you. And so with the dual reporting, and that person, therefore, you are putting your person in marketing, and that person is also my person. And let's see, because we are one of the biggest expense lines in the company's P&L. So we need to have that kind of a financial diligence. And she loved it. And now, since that time, now I have got a full-fledged finance department sitting in marketing. So the numbers, when they are reported, there is complete credibility. Nobody suspects these are fudged or massaged or postured. Nothing. It's straightforward, number one. So finance, therefore, naturally trusts. And then they know what marketing is spending on and what is giving returns. It's not all good news. Sometimes you experiment something, it doesn't work. You openly declare, yeah, we tried. We are not God, right? And if something doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll figure out why it hasn't worked, take the learnings, and then move on to the next one. That changes the complete dynamic between CFO and the CMO. So one of the first things I would say is, depending on the size of the company, have at least a marketing person, either full-time, a finance person, either full-time or part-time, residing within marketing, number one. Number two, do joint reviews, of the marketing together with the CFO. They'll love it. I think the gap is right now on trust. I think that needs to be built. Now, the CEO is another important thing, where the CEO is under so much of pressure these days. Every quarter, they have to come out with their numbers. And to do that, they want our help. The more the marketing, the more the companies, even the small ones, are able to compete brutally against the large companies. The field of competition is being democratized, which means it's getting more brutal. And large companies as well have to figure out how to sustain and grow. In that kind of a scenario, when a CEO asks a question as to what you are getting in return, you better have proper ROI, return on investment, metrics and methodologies validated by your finance folks. Let them actually do the ROI. Delegate it to them. Now, when you talk to a CEO or a CFO in the language they understand, which is numbers, which is strategy, and which is in terms of the outcomes for the business, you are in a good shape. If the CEO or the CFO asks you, okay, we are giving you $10 million, what are you giving in return? And if your answer is sort of fluffy, and you say, yeah, my brand awareness score goes up, or my net promoter score goes up, you have lost them. They think that you are hiding, or you don't know the answers, both of which are disastrous for your credibility and for your function's credibility. So you need to give finance answers to financial questions and business answers to business questions. And marketing, you need to have that for your own management of your function with your people as you are reviewing them. So I think this is how you have to approach. And same thing with the IT folks. Many of the companies actually have bigger IT technology budgets than the CTOs in those companies.
Absolutely.
And unless they educate themselves and understand, it's very critical. So they need to stay on top of it. Again, use the CIO, not use, but partner with the CIO truly as a collaborator, as opposed to saying that I want to do my own stuff and these guys are slow, they won't respond to me. I think there is a mindset change that needs to be adopted here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's been a very interesting interview. Looking forward to reading the rest of the book. I said what I've been able to get through so far, and thank you for sending a few copies for me and my team. It's been very interesting. So thank you for that. Last question, where can people get this book?
So Quantum Marketing, the book is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place where you find books, it's there everywhere. And it has been launched on the 9th of February. So I hope people will go and buy. It's available in an audiobook format, in an ebook format, in a hardcover format, whichever they please, it's all there. And I hope they will really like it. I feel very fortunate that my peers, some of the top CMOs, Unilever, General Mills, and Kimberly-Clark, IBM, Microsoft, they have endorsed this book so strongly. I feel very gratified. And so hopefully, your audience will go pick up a copy and read it. And I would love to engage with them after that, either by Twitter or on LinkedIn, Rajamannar, and I'll answer them and I'll engage with them.
Well, that's great. Yeah, definitely. I will get a copy on Audible. I find that the best way to listen to the book and then read it, at least the ones you like, and listen to it again. It's always good to have it on. So thank you again for taking the time, and look forward to hearing from you and Mastercard later this year.
Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate the opportunity, and please take care.
Absolutely. Thanks.